Thank you. I do have a short announcement to make. I'm sure some of the older serving councillors will remember ex-councillor John Starling. He sadly passed away this week. John was first elected as a parish councillor for Horsford in 1979 and was elected to Broadland District Council in 1991. For 24 years on the council, he served Horsford and then Felthorpe after boundary changes. During his time on the district council, he was absolutely passionate about serving the communities he represented, right up until 2015, when he stood down. John served as Vice Chair of the Old Policy and Resources Committee and as Chair of Standards. He also very reluctantly became Lib Dem leader following the sudden death of the previous leader in 1995. At a time when the council had no overall control and no formal arrangement between political groups, John's focus was not to play politics and seek for opportunities to work with members across the political divide, as he believed this was the right approach to help council and to keep working for local residents. I know from speaking to his successors in his ward, his daughter-in-law Lisa and son Nick, that the goodwill from John's hard work representing his area is still felt to this day in Horsford and Felthorpe. I'm sure all councillors will stand together in passing on our sincere condolences to John's family. Would you please join me in 1 minute's silence in honour of John? Thank you very much. I'll just sit down. I know Nick has a short anecdote he'd like to share with you.
Thank you. Thank you, councillors, for the respect you showed there. My very first council meeting, actually, I believe there was a minute's silence for the death of another councillor or ex-councillor, and it's just funny because he turned around to me and nudged me at the end and went, "I'll be doing this for you one day." And I said, "And for you?" He went, yeah, of course. He said, he actually went, "Hopefully you'll be there." And by fortune of timing, I am. So thank you, councillors, for that. And just wanted to say I was actually quite pleased. I haven't had a chance to speak to him, but there's a few councillors in here who were on the same time as my dad, who my dad actually had a lot of time for, including opposition councillors. And I'll just mention a couple while we're here. Stuart Clancy, my dad always had time for. He must have been mad. I don't know why, but he always had time for Stuart. And a former councillor, but current county councillor, Tony Adams, who I know is sat at the back somewhere, again, who has sort of represented Horsford at a different level, at county level. And although they had differences on many things, they also agreed on rather a lot, and they agreed on working for their areas. So it's nice to see them here.
Thank you, Nick. Councillor Clancy.
Can I just respond to that? I'd like to endorse entirely what Nick said. His dad, John Starling, in my view, was what I call a good man. I served on a school governing body with him. That's where I first met John. I met him on this council. He was a strong man for consensus. He was a strong man for common sense. And what I would describe, I hope Nick had a little bit of a jibe at me, but what I would describe as a thoroughly decent man. John was a thoroughly decent man. And I genuinely, honestly mean that, because you could always talk to John, you could always have a conversation, you could always get consensus, and he was overriding sense of decency. I'd just like to repeat that, but I genuinely mean that.
Thank you, appreciate your comment. Mr. Adams, or Councillor Adams, would like to say something. So, Not really? Okay. Councillor Adams, do you want to do that during the public speaking?
Well, yeah, I mean, I just want to endorse everything that's been said, Madam Chairman, about John. I mean, we work very closely together, and John was called Mr. Horsford, and he was Mr. Horsford. You know, anything that came up regarding Horsford, he was on the telephone, especially on highways, with to me. And I can remember one night he called me at about 5 to 10 at night because somebody had complained about the pavement hadn't been done properly, and he said, could I join him? And I did. And we looked at the pavement, we both looked at one another, and we said, what the heck was he complaining about? Although we didn't quite use the word heck. But yeah, so again, my greatest admiration for John. He was a really good councillor, good person, and I admired him.
Thank you. Thank you. We go to declarations of interest, please. Anybody have any declarations? Councillor Nurdon.
Thank you, Chairman. Just on item 7.2, I am the District Councillor for the Marshes Ward.
Thank you. Councillor Hartley.
Thank you. For item 7.5, I'm just declaring it as a Director of Broadland Living. I won't be voting on that or speaking on it. Thank you.
Councillor Holland, are you the same?
Yes, the same thing, yes. Director of Broadland Living, and I will not be taking part in the vote or commenting on the proposals.
Okay. Councillor Whymark.
Thank you, Chairman. 7.2 is just that I'm on the Broad Authority Planning Committee, although I wasn't there for this particular item, but just to be clear. Thank you.
Thank you. I understand we have some apologies for absence. Claire, would you like to read those out, please?
Thank you, Chair. I've received apologies from councillors Mancini, Boyle, Potter, Vincent, Davis, Bailey and Royal.
Thank you. We go to the minutes of the council meeting held on the 14th of December. Oh, sorry.
Can I just add Councillor Hempsall as well? She's
Okay, thank you.
given her apologies. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. If you'd like to be referred to page 8 of the agenda, could I ask members to indicate by show of hands if they're happy to approve them as a true and accurate record, please? Thank you. Are there any matters arising from the minutes? No? Thank you. If you'd like to refer to page 17, there's a list of engagements from myself and the Vice Chair. I would like to also announce that we are holding a fundraising event on Friday the 22nd of March. It's a bingo and pizza afternoon, and you're all very welcome to attend. I think invitations will be going out shortly for that. That's to raise money for the two charities. Vice Chair, do you have any announcements, please?
No announcements there, Chair.
Leader, do you have any announcements?
Yes, thank you. Just first, I'd like to do a quick mention for my opposite number at South Norfolk, actually, who I'm sure members will be aware has recently been elevated to the House of Lords, and I think we would wish to offer our congratulations. And I'm sure he will put as much effort in there as he has always done at South Norfolk, so I'm sure it'll be interesting to watch his progress. My only other announcements really are just to point out that this meeting is one of the most important in our council calendar. It's where we set out our budget and financial needs for the forthcoming year to provide the services and support to residents across our district. Councils across the country are united in highlighting the issues they face following a sustained reduction in funding over the past decade. The LGA response to the government's funding proposals has demonstrated the difficulties and challenges that all these councils are facing. This meeting also includes our new 4-year plan, underpinned by a 2-year delivery plan designed to meet our new objectives as well as our business as usual activities. The two items have been conducted in tandem, in order to assure our residents and council taxpayers of the robustness and care we have taken to ensure our financial needs can be met. I'm sure you will join me in considering carefully the strategy and resolutions we have identified in order to achieve the best we can for Broadland. I will leave it at that. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Any members of the Cabinet have any announcements? Okay, thank you. Managing Director, do you have any announcements?
Chair, if I might. Chair, if I could just bring Council's attention to it's International Women's Day on the 8th of March, and when I was preparing for the announcement that I was going to make tonight, I couldn't help but reflect on that, because tonight I'm going to share with you the fact that this is Helen Mellors, our the Assistant Director of Planning's last council meeting. And when I was reading Helen's biography to come for tonight, I thought, actually, what a fantastic example of a case study that we should be using for International Women's Day. Helen started her career as a planning receptionist in Norwich City Council, but she was interested in what was going on and how things happened, and quickly qualified as a planner, and has worked in local government, progressing to be the Assistant Director for Planning and responsible for CNC in a career spanning some 40 years. Helen is a highly respected senior colleague who always acts with integrity, knows her own mind, has strong views, and is happy to share those constructively to support both sound planning decisions, but also in her wider role as part of the senior corporate management team. I'm sure Council would want to join me in wishing Helen all the very best in her future, whatever she decides to do following her long and distinguished career in local government. Chairman, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. As the portfolio holder for planning, I'd like to second that. I'd like to thank her as well, although I believe she's not here this evening and can't be here this evening. Is she? All right. I beg your pardon. She's hiding behind a silver-haired gentleman. And I'd like to thank her for guiding me through my new role, and it's been very constructive and helpful. And needless to say, she has shared with me one or two thoughts of what she will be doing in the future. And can I say, she will be doing things. And I support her in everything she wants to do in the future. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. I do wish Helen well. We had a little chat earlier, and I think she's going to be busier than she was when she was working. So enjoy your retirement, Helen. We have no questions or public speaking. So we go to the recommendations from Cabinet, held from the meetings on the 16th of January and 13th of February. I would like to refer you to the recommendations listed on pages 18 to 20. I understand there are hard copies available for everyone at the meeting. If you haven't got one, please put your hand up. Okay. Right, we'll go to 7.1 first, the Greater Norwich 5-year infrastructure investment plan for 24-29 and annual growth programme 24-25. I would like to invite the leader to present recommendations from the Cabinet.
Thank you. Yes, I think as many of you will be aware, the Greater Norwich Infrastructure Plan arises from the arrangement between Norwich City Council, South Norfolk Council and Broadland District Council, where we pool the SIL money and we are able to build developments across the whole area. It's been a really effective working relationship, and I'm pleased to say it's continuing. So this is a rolling programme. It's approved yearly by all three councils involved in the project, and this year we can see that there is an addition of funding for the Nest on Holt Road and the Aylsham Gym and Fitness Hub. Both of those are excellent projects in the Broadland area. They total just over £1 million. So I would actually wholeheartedly suggest that we all support this plan. The other element of it that I think is possibly might look odd, but I think we need to be clear about, is that there is a programme management fee built into this, and that is because we do such a successful job. We need staff who actually manage to work these projects for us. So that fee comes out of that SIL money and is projected to support the team as they develop more and more projects in this programme. So I would urge you to vote in favour of this, and I hope that's all quite clear, but I'm sure if you have any questions, I'm sure you'll be putting them to us shortly.
Are you proposing the recommendation? Okay. I understand, Stuart, are you seconding? Yes. Do you would like to speak now or reserve the right? Thank you. I invite questions from members of the council, please. Anybody got any questions? Councillor Wymark.
Thank you, Chairman. I just want to say that we fully endorse this. It's been a long-running programme, and it's really enhanced so many areas across Broadland and across the Greater Norwich area. So I think it's a really good plan, and yeah, just fully endorse it. Really, thank you.
Thank you.
Just to say, I'm delighted to see that there's money for the Nest. I've taken my daughter to play women's football at the Nest, and I was just amazed at how many people turned out. What a positive experience it was, and in these days when children have problems with addiction to mobile phones and so on, it's just the sort of thing we should be doing, and just what residents will want, actually. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Catchpole.
Thank you, Chair. Just to say, really pleased to see the inclusion of the Aylsham Gym and Fitness Hub. I've been working with the Aylsham Community Gym, and they have struggled to have premises and keep going over the last few years. You know, their fundraising's down to cake sales, etc. And to see this kind of facility being provided, I understand next to the school in Aylsham, will be very welcome.
Thank you. Does anybody else have any questions or comments? No, I'm going to invite Councillor Beadle to respond.
Okay, thank you, Chair.
Sorry, I thought you were going to speak then. I'll invite the leader, please.
Well, it's an absolute pleasure to sum up then. I think one of the other things I forgot to mention at the beginning, of course, is that this is also done in partnership with the County Council. So there is also educational facilities that come from this. And I think we can all quite clearly see that this is a cross-party thing. We're all very pleased to see these things happen. We need as much of these facilities as we can get for both education, for health and well-being, and so on and so forth. And this is the best way, I think, for us to actually get those major projects done, is to pool this money and make sure that these things work well. So I'm really pleased to know that everybody's behind it. I think we all feel the same way, and it's one of the nicest things tonight, and that perhaps we can all agree on, and may not stay like that, but I think this one's a good one. Thank you. So do go to the recommendations.
Thank you. You all have the recommendations in front of you, 1 to 4. I would invite you to show of hands in agreement to those, please. Thank you. That looks unanimous. Seven point 2, conservation area appraisal for the conservation area of Halvergate and Tunstall. And again, I would like to invite the leader to present.
Thank you. Yes, this area is from a designation that was first laid out in 2007 by the Broads Authority. Now, part of it is in the Broadland District Council area, and that's why it comes to us for us to agree also and to adopt it at this council. One of the things I would say is that this particular appraisal has been extremely thorough. I think if you've read through the paperwork, you will see that there were a significant number of consultations held, where people raised questions from the public. They were very carefully answered. Some of their points were taken on board where they were useful to do so. I think everybody engaged in it felt that this was a really thorough and good process, and I'm really hoping that, again, we can all agree that we need to approve and adopt this so that we can meet the legal requirements of the conservation area process and we can continue the protection of that area. And that's really all I have to say on that. Thank you.
Again, are you proposing? Yeah. Seconder?
I'll second.
Thank you.
And,
Question?
and in seconding, Chair, I would like to thoroughly, wholeheartedly support this. And if you go down to that part of the world, the church is actually on a little rise, and it is an unusual in our Broadland District Council area that there is a little bit of a rise in that part of the world because it's so flat and it's so low lying, and it's nice to see that the conservation area is being addressed in this way. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Do we have any questions or comments from members? Councillor Nurden.
Thank you, Chairman. I wholeheartedly support this adoption. Just to comment that the conservation area and the principle of it being a conservation area is very, very important to the residents of Halvergate and Tunstall. So I would certainly endorse the recommendation. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Nurden. Anybody else got any questions or queries? No? As Councillor Beadle's already spoken, I will invite the leader to sum up, please.
I think it's all been
said?
All been said, don't you? I think, you know, we're all very passionate about our areas and conservation is high on our priorities. So I'm very pleased to hear that people are happy to support this. So I would take us to the recommendation.
Recommendation is to approve and adopts the conservation area appraisal for Halvergate and Tunstall conservation area. All those in favour, please. Okay, that looks unanimous. Thank you. 7.3, charging policy. This is on page 206. And I invite the leader to present the recommendations for Cabinet.
Thank you, Chair. I will pass over to Councillor Riley, who will propose the recommendations for us.
Thank you, Chair. Page 207 on the report. This is actually a review of the charging policy, and the three principles that are encompassed there under 2.2, namely Principle 1, all fees and charges should aim to cover the full cost of the service. Principle 2, where appropriate, consideration should be given to establishing pricing structure that caters for people on low incomes. And Principle 3, where possible, charges should be collected in advance of service delivery. I'm happy to report that under the review this is the case. This completely fits with our manifesto commitments as well in terms of partnership, and the recommendation is pretty straightforward to the Council that charging policy as in Appendix A is approved, and I so move, Chair.
Thank you. Are you proposing? Councillor Riley? Yeah. Can I have a seconder, please? Councillor Holland? You wish to speak now or reserve the right? You'll wait. Okay. Do we have any questions or comments? Councillor Copplestone.
Thank you, Chair. I'm really pleased to see this come through. I know the Conservative previous administration was talking about full cost recovery for quite a long while, and I'm pleased to see these charges won't be a burden to our taxpayers, so I support this. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? No, I'll ask Councillor Holland to respond.
Well, thank you. Yes, I think it's quite important that we have a charging policy. We need it in order to recover the costs for discretionary services. Basically, the policy is aiming to make sure that we're consistent and we're fair when we set these fees and charges. I just need to remind people it doesn't apply to fees that are set by the government. These are for discretionary fees. We are aiming to conform to the relevant guidance. I think it's fair and reasonable. And I think it's right, actually, that those people who receive the services are the people who pay rather than being subsidised by all the other taxpayers in the district. So I think that's a reasonable assumption to make, and the policy does exactly what it says on the tin. So I'm happy to second that motion.
Thank you. Councillor Riley, do you have anything to add? Councillor Riley? Do you have anything to add? No. Recommendation to approve the charging policy outlined in Appendix A of the report. All those in favour, please? Thank you. Unanimous. Sorry, 7.4 Development Management Pre-Application Charges. That's page 214 of your report. Invite the leader again to present recommendations from Cabinet.
Thank you. I'll hand that over to the portfolio holder who's responsible for that, and that'll be Councillor Beadle to propose the recommendations.
Thank you, Chair. In proposing this, I would like to thank the Council for agreeing to the general principle of full cost recovery, and which is what is happening in this case. But nevertheless, there are a few categories which are planned to be protected, and these include listed building advice, tree works advice, compliance with conditions advice, follow-up enquiries, and notifications under permitted development rights. And so the areas of most concern and possible cause for worry by our clients, customers and residents of our district are actually protected. There are other areas where we've got an increasing complexity of the planning system, and in particular relating to nutrient neutrality and diversity net gain, and that is going to come along with increased fees. There is a lot of work in this paper. It's quite a big paper, and I will take questions if anybody has any, Chair.
Thank you. Do you have a seconder? Sorry? No, you're proposing. Councillor Riley seconding. Would you like to speak now, Councillor Riley, or reserve the right? Right, okay, thank you. Do we have any questions or comments on this, please? None at all? Okay, Councillor Riley, would you like to respond?
I will forego that privilege.
Okay. Councillor Beadle, would you like to say anything more?
No, I think everything's been said, Chair. Just what's in the report.
Thank you. Right, recommendation to Council. Agree the revised charging structure as set out in Appendix 3 from April 1st, 2024, with fees being rounded up to the nearest £5. All those in favour of the recommendation, please. Unanimous again. We're on a roll tonight, aren't we? £7.5 Local Authority Housing Fund, purchase of further properties. And I invite the leader to present the recommendations from Cabinet.
I'm going to invite Councillor Riley to do that. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, it gives me great pleasure to move this report, Chair. This follows on from our original LHF funding of 9 properties. As you know, that's also providing, or will be providing, 3 temporary accommodation, which is vitally needed. As you know, the need for homeless accommodation has risen exponentially, and that will help us to provide very good accommodation, but also help us to alleviate our revenue costs. We'll also be providing, of course, on that first tranche, 6 houses. This is very much in line with the template and the hard work that went into that business case with myself and other portfolio holders, Natasha in particular, and also the officers who put a great deal of work in that across all departments to make the business case work. The interesting thing to point members to, in line with the recommendation, that we provide capital of 235,000 towards purchase of another 2 houses, is on page 240, 3.5. You will note that on B&B costs, this will save approximately £180,000 on first year. So if one puts that in perspective of capital spent and in terms of a return, if you like, but in savings, it's roughly about 80%. So this is a really good business case for the council and our residents. it reduces our revenue spend and provides better, high quality temporary accommodation. And I could wax lyrically about this, Chair, and if there's any questions, I'll be happy to answer them. But as it stands, I'd be happy to propose it with my comments I've just made. We do have to actually get this in place, ready for purchase on the 29th of March, and we believe that things are moving accordingly for that to happen once we've had this final agreement tonight. So I so move, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Riley. And I understand, Dan, you're seconding this?
Yes, please.
Would you like to speak now?
I will speak now very briefly. What a fantastic opportunity, and it's one of the few times as a council where you have the chance to not only increase service provision for those who very much need it, but also in the longer term save money. How can you get a better business case than that? And I commend it to council.
Thank you. Councillor Starling.
Thank you. We looked at this in some depth in ONS, and I think it should be acknowledged how quickly the council has worked on this, staff, officers, cabinet, to bring this forward. They really found an opportunity, jumped on it straight away, and moved at speeds well ahead of other councils. And if there's money in the pot, we will hopefully get first chance at that. And I believe this is sort of like a pot which tops back up if we spend or make use of it, because we're then deemed to be a good bet for doing that. I think Councillor Riley might nod in that way, but I completely recommend support for this. It sounds like an excellent proposal.
Thank you. Councillor Clancy.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Calix.
Thank you, Chair. I just want to wholeheartedly say how delighted I am to see this being passed so quickly, and all the hard work that's gone into it. And as many of you have said, it makes business sense, good for our community, but most of all for the individuals to be living in a B&B is not a way, there is no consistency in your life. The children are going to have worse outcomes. So if we can move them on into proper accommodation, we are changing lives. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anybody else? Oh, Councillor Merrill, sorry.
Thank you. Yes, I'd just like to thank the officers once again for being in a position to show that we are an exemplar, and the fact that we've been offered this is the second bite of the cherry where other councils haven't. So just thoroughly recommend this proposal.
Thank you. Any further comments or questions now? Dan, would you like to? We've already spoken, haven't you? Yes. Steve, like to respond?
Yes. I'd just like to thank the opposition for commending further support for a kind of policy, and I do recognise that the opposition and Fran was involved with some purchasing of previous houses. There is a difference with this one. We actually had a decision to make whether we wanted to seek government grant money, which wasn't the previous situation, and some councils have decided not to. So there was clearly a decision to be made there. I don't know what the opposition would have done in that situation. All I know is what we've done, which is, of course, we expressed that interest and we secured it. And because we secured the first funding, we've been able to go back for this funding as well. Also, in relation to the previous funding, not only is it saving on B&B, but we've put a business case together to bring in a small income off of that, because that's what the revenue budget needs, and we've got very little income, no other income actually coming in on that basis. So we've actually taken the business case and developed it a bit further, which I think you appreciate, which I think is helpful to everyone. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. You have the recommendations in front of you. Can you show by show of hands for approval, please? Thank you. Moving on to the budget. It's my intention to take debate items 7.6, 7.7 and 7.8 together. However, separate votes will be taken on each item. In accordance with the Constitution, this will mean that the portfolio holder for finance has a total of 15 minutes to speak. All other members will have a total of 9 minutes, but it should be noted that members can only speak once. It is a statutory requirement for a recorded vote to be taken on the following items. The Revenue Budget and Council Tax 24-25, Capital Strategy and Capital Programme 24-25 to 28-29, and the Council Tax Resolution 24-25. I'd like to invite the leader to present the recommendations from Cabinet.
Thank you. I'd like to hand over to the portfolio holder for finance.
Thank you, Chair and Leader. I just, first of all, just like to say, as members are aware, in times gone past, chancellors in the House of Commons quite often have a tipple in front of them, and just to assure Emma here, I'm sure would look very dimly on that if I was to do the same thing. I've just brought my Ribena, which I'm sure you'd approve of.
Other brands are available.
Yes. So first of all, it gives me great pleasure to be able to present the first budget proposals from our partnership of Lib Dems, Labour and Greens to you this evening. The proposals in front of you tonight represent a robust and prudentially responsible budget for the Council and our residents that will continue to deliver on key priorities of this administration, but also begin to address the inherited problem of the capital programme, which uses all reserves, and in such case that would be unsustainable programme. This will need to be addressed, and I'll come on to that further in terms of the capital programme. Turning first to the revenue budget, we remain in a challenging financial position and environment with significant inflationary pressures and increased demand on our services. In particular, we have seen the need for additional support for families at risk of becoming homeless, and an increased need to support temporary homeless housing needs. The grant support from government has only increased by 4%, with 1% coming in very late in the last few weeks through pressure of the LGA. And we still rely upon annual grant settlements, which hinder us from being able to financially plan longer term. The government needs to provide long-term funding and review yearly for uplifts in inflationary pressures. We will continue to lobby the government and with other local authorities who all sing the same tune. However, we have been able to rise to the financial challenge and find efficiencies and income generating opportunities, whilst also still investing in our services and in line with our manifesto commitments of May 2023 to improve service provision to our residents and to better support our communities. We, the partnership, have only been in control of the council for just over 9 months and have been working hard to deliver for our residents. For instance, I am particularly proud that we have been able to repurpose existing funds to launch an improved customer experience programme, investing $344,000 of capital, which will improve residents' use of our services and bring about much needed revenue savings when complete. A win-win business case for the taxpayer. We have been successful in obtaining government grants, as just mentioned, and repurposing our own capital to invest in purchasing much needed housing, and with more in the pipeline to better support the need of homeless, and which will bring significant savings to our revenue budget and a small income within the existing excellent business plan with no borrowing. We have also put together the business case for and registered our new company, Broadland Living, to run and administer the housing stock for rent, which will be of great benefit to the council and investment in our housing for residents. We have also delivered on our long-term commitment and manifestos to return more council tax money directly back to our residents in our communities by repurposing funding, by increasing the members' ward grant by 100% for communities in each councillor's ward, and establish a community grant scheme from £1,000 to £15,000. On the first round of grant applications, the request for funds was almost double the cap, proving these funds in communities are valued and needed. I am pleased to announce in this budget provision to continue with the two grant schemes to the same level of funding as in 23-24. These are just a few examples of how we have been moving forward on delivering to our residents. We have achieved this and more despite the challenging financial climate we found ourselves facing. As a new administration, in October, the minimum term financial position and reserves were challenging, with a £1 million deficit estimated for this budget, and all reserves, including a general reserve of 5.5 million, committed to fund the capital programme. That reserve that reserve, as is the case for any other council, is the contingency reserve in terms of revenue shortfalls for running the council of which we were possibly facing. We therefore with determined focus and hard work with officers across all departments, have faced the challenge for achieving our balanced budget with no service cuts, which other councils have had to propose. I am therefore able to propose a below inflation 3.85 increase in the main rate of council tax. The increase is just £5, or put another way, just 10p a week. Furthermore, some of our residents will actually see a reduction in their council tax, as we are proposing to reduce the special expenses charge by £6. This means that council taxpayers in Great Witchingham, Helsden, will see an overall reduction in their charge from this council of £1. I also wish to bring to the attention the government's announcement that the Universal Food Waste Service will be rolled out nationally from April the 1st, 2026. As you will be aware, Broadland already implemented this service, and we are therefore raising issues with DEFRA to try and ensure that Broadland is not financially disadvantaged for having been an early adopter in terms of the capital spend. At the moment, they are saying they are still refusing this, but we are still pursuing it. I'm also pleased to report that we've ensured that no borrowing is required, no services are to be cut, no reserves are being used to balance this budget. And we will continue with our programme of improvements for the council to benefit the residents of Broadland. And I commend that revenue budget to you. Moving on in regards to the capital programme, we've reviewed the capital budgets that we inherited from the previous administration to ensure they fully support this administration's vision and priorities. And although we acknowledge there is further work to do, we have committed to continually reviewing the capital programme during this forthcoming financial year and moving forward to ensure that the council obtains value for money from every penny of its expenditure, and the capital programme is affordable both now and in the long term, and is sustainable. To this end, we have, for the very first time in Broadland's history, from this revenue budget, proposing 250,000 to go towards financing existing capital funding, of which we are under pressure to do because of the position of the financial reserves and general reserves. This is actually a very prudent thing to do, and we intend to try to do this next year and the year after and the year after, if we can afford to do so within a balanced budget, to try to alleviate the capital situation. We have also said very clearly in the report, under page 267, 5.2, that we will be reviewing the existing capital programme over this year, in particular to see what can be done to put that into a better place in terms of the overall spending from that capital programme. That will no doubt be quite a job of work, but we will do it. It's essential that we do for sustainability. Regarding our treasury management strategy, we remain committed to ensuring that taxpayers' money is secure and invested appropriately to deliver financial returns to support our core services. Our treasury management strategy therefore places appropriate restrictions on the types of investments that we will utilise and does not propose any borrowing. Overall, as well as approving the Broadland budget papers as a billing authority, we also have to formally set the overall council tax for our residents. The council tax resolution paper therefore takes our element of council tax and adds it into this amount we have been asked to collect by Norfolk County Council, the Police and Crime Commissioner and the parish's precepts on their behalf. We have no control over the level of charges that these other bodies set, and it is worth noting that Broadland element of the council tax is the lowest percentage increase and amount being levelled. I believe the Broadland council tax charge of £134.91, or just £2.60 a week, represents excellent value for money, is prudent, robust, and will put this council on a sure footing for the future and to deliver our priorities. And I therefore commend this budget to the council. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Councillor Riley, do you have a seconder? Councillor Holland? Would you like to speak now or reserve the right?
I'll reserve the right, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. I'd like to invite comments from councillors, please. Councillor Copplestone.
Thank you, Chair. I would like to propose an amendment to 7.6 Council Revenue Budget and Council Tax Amendment, please.
Do you have a seconder? Councillor Warwick. Councillor Copplestone, would you like to set out your amendment, please?
Thank you, Chair. The previous Conservative administration did not increase council tax over the last 2 years. We took prudent steps to collaborate with South Norfolk Council to achieve savings of 8.6 million over the last few years, moving the two councils into the Horizon building to save on running costs and our carbon footprint. This enabled us to deliver first-class services to the ratepayer at the lowest possible cost. By tabling this amendment, the Conservative group continue our ambition to give the best value to our hard-working residents by keeping council tax as low as possible. We therefore propose to reduce the Rainbow Alliance proposed increase of the maximum amount of £5 to just £1.50 for a Band D property. The Section 151 officer has confirmed our proposal would deliver a robust and balanced budget which ensures the level of reserves remain adequate. This will be achieved by removing the Broadland Availability Fund of £100,000, the increase to members' grants from £500 to £1,000, a saving of £23,500, and the Community Grant Fund of £50,000, totalling £174,000. And you can see this under Growth Appendix B, page 261. We believe these are unnecessary costs to our taxpayers which can be avoided. I asked the Section 151 officer what the Broadland Availability Fund was, and his answer was, given the uncertainty over inflation and cost of living pressures, the Broadland Availability Fund is a new budget line that has been set aside to fund any unexpected issues during the year. This is likely to be used for any new unexpected one-off items. Given inflation has reduced to 4%, and earlier this week the Governor of the Bank of England stated there were distinct signs of an upturn in the economy, inflation is predicted to reduce further when Ofgem reduces the energy price cap for UK electricity tomorrow, and we feel the Broadland Availability Fund is an unnecessary contingency fund. And going on to the removal of the community grant scheme and reducing members' grant, looking at the minutes of the community grant scheme panel in December, only 3.5% of grant funding was awarded to smaller parishes, and I think that went to Freethorpe. The rest of the funding was awarded to larger parishes of Helsdon, Reetham, Sprowston, Taverham and Thorpe St Andrew. These parishes have the benefits of SIL receipts and other sources of grants funding, such as our UK Shared Prosperity Fund, the Community at Heart Lottery and other external funding, and the Conservatives do not believe that this to be an acceptable or equitable burden on our taxpayers, especially those living in the smaller parishes. Indeed, in several parishes awarded community grants, the ward members have not even spent their member grants. And that's in Reetham, Sprowston and Thorpe St Andrew. Over 30% of the member grant fund remains unspent to date, with less than a week for members to spend their grants. The grant fund is not working, and there is so much duplicity in funding within this new system. It's completely unreasonable for all our taxpayers to pay for this. And I have made a change to the recommendation. I believe Rodney has a handout. Thank you.
Councillor Copplestone, does your seconder want to speak now or reserve the right? Okay. You will be having papers given to you, and we are going to adjourn for 10 minutes while you read those papers. You might like to take that chance of getting a drink if you need one.